Good Riddance 2020, Colossians 3, 1-11, Christian Standard Bible. So if you have been raised with Christ, seek the things above where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things above, not on earthly things. For you died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you also will appear with him in glory. Therefore, put to death what belongs to your earthly nature: sexual immorality, impurity, lust, evil desire, and greed, which is idolatry. Because of these, God's wrath is coming upon the disobedient. And you once walked in these things when you were living in them, but now put away all the following: anger, wrath, malice, slander, and filthy language from your mouth. Do not lie to one another, since you have put off the old self with its practices and have put on the new self. You are being renewed in knowledge according to the image of your Creator. In Christ there is not Greek and Jew and circumcision and uncircumcision, barbarian, Scythian, slave, and free, but Christ is all and in all. And this year we experienced fear, and we experienced sorrow, and we experienced human nature at its ugliest. All of us want 2021 to be a better year. But what can we do about it? There are some things we will not be able to control. I don't have a magic formula to keep everybody in the world healthy and happy next year. Nobody on earth does. But there are some things I can do and I want to do. I invite you to add some extra New Year's resolutions to your list. And here are the 3 I have chosen based on today's text. We resolve to put to death what belongs to our earthly nature. That's right. Join me on my murderous rampage. I want to eliminate all these things within myself that are contrary to the life that I am committed to when I came to Christ. The first house I want to break into to engage in serial killing is the house of impure thoughts. This house has 4 inhabitants. I want to get rid of them all because the next year promises to be a great year, but I want to get rid of these before the year starts. And those 4 inhabitants are sexual immorality, impurity, lust, and evil desire. God has given our minds and bodies to demonstrate his holiness. Don't sheath your swords yet, though. The next house we will invade is the house of idolatrous greed. This desires for more than we need. And it's an insult to God, who has promised to give us all we need. We have to kill greed because God's wrath is coming to the greedy. The third house we will visit in our end-of-year murder spree is the house of uncontrolled hate. 3 people live there, and we need to put a hit on them. They are anger, wrath, and malice. The 4th house is just up the street. It is the house of the evil tongue. It contains 3 people who we cannot afford to allow to keep breathing. One is slander, another filthy language, and the last is the liar. These 3 have to go. Okay, you can put up your sword now. We have visited 4 houses and put an end to 11 enemies. But I should warn you that our earthly nature is still here in us. We have killed off 11, but there are more where that came from. So what we really need to do is replace that earthly nature. That's why the next resolution is important. We resolve to put on the new self. We're tired of looking like we did. Our old self was too short, too fat, and it had bad breath and bad manners. We want a new look for this new year and all the years after it. We need to be careful around this time of year because lots of people make New Year's resolutions that are filled with the same kind of selfishness and pride that they wanted to get rid of. So let's go to the store and pick out a new self from the shelf. But what kind of new self should we choose? Let's pick a new self that is continuously getting smarter about the things that really count. It's being renewed in knowledge. And let's also pick a new self based on the pattern that our Creator gave us. That pattern is Christ himself. You can't go wrong with that new look. Looking like Jesus never goes out of style. Have you ever noticed that the models who model clothing are drop-dead gorgeous people? It's not fair, really. You buy that shirt because it really looked great on that cowboy, but you get it home and put it on and it looks clumpy. The reason might be that the person wearing it is clumpy. Every one of us has inherited a certain tendency toward the clumpy. We are different, but mostly those are just different kinds of clumpy. There's Greek clumpy and Jew clumpy and barbarian clumpy and Scythian clumpy, black clumpy and white clumpy, white collar clumpy and blue collar clumpy. But putting on the new self helps us to undo our inherited clumpy selves. That's because someone who has put on the new self has put on Christ, and he always looks good. That is because he is the pattern. He's what God intended for all of us. I've got one more resolution, so hold on. We resolve to seek the things above. Some people make really strong efforts at their New Year's resolutions, and by March or April, they start looking really good. Then the old habits start coming back. By December, they don't look like they dieted at all. Their diet backfired. You see, the problem is that they just wanted to replace what they looked, the way they looked. And the real problem was not how they looked. The problem was what they craved. So we round out our New Year's resolution with a resolve to crave something that is not going to backfire on us. We want to set our minds on things above, not on earthly things. There are two principles in today's text which help us to do that. First, we read, we need to remember the day we died. Paul told the Colossians, you died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. Remember all those people in verses 5 to 9 that we killed? We're not going to go to jail for those crimes because all those people were us. We have made the conscious choice to put to death the old self and live a new life that is hidden with Christ in God. When we're tempted to resurrect any of those old habits, we need to go out to the cemetery and read the tombstones. We just need to remind ourselves of the death of the old self. But there's one more thing that will help. We need to remind ourselves that when Christ appears, we will appear with him in glory. We're destined to live a glorified, eternal, permanent life like his. That's our destiny. The old stuff that we have determined to get rid of is not our destiny. We can do without it because we are seeking the things above. Some people have taught that the goal of the Christian is to get to heaven when they die. Some might have even misread this text and thought that it teaches that we are to set our minds on heaven because that is our destination. It is not, and we should not. Our destination is the renewal of all things. We get that not by going to heaven to be with Christ, but by being in Christ when he comes back. Paul said, when Christ, who is your life, appears, then you will appear with him in glory. Maybe you're concerned that we have piled on too many resolutions here, and you don't think you have the strength to do all that. Let me make it simpler. Put your faith in Jesus Christ. Live every day in expectation of his return. And when he does come back, you'll notice you didn't have anything to worry about. Happy New Year. God bless you.